I think you can right click and save them, but it's safer to do print screen because of the plotting.
Order too many, sorry.
See, what happens is that all these that I place zero, they go and fill in orders. They're gonna have zeros.
Okay, 3 teams are done.
You want a print screen of which, the overall chart?
Your plots and orders. Your orders, sorry.
The overall chart.
Today we're
Yeah.
last place.
I think I'm shooting for like last place here.
Just keep it with you.
All I can say is, our beer is worth more because it's well aged in the factory.
Chart that has everything.
Let's say plot all, but nothing shows up.
Ah.
It's a half, it's good, but half then. It's not a quarter, once I went down. I say plot all.
You're still in back.
I held the screen down.
Up here is it, the print, and then download the PDF.
So I'm just gonna send an email.
Can we
Open up the email.
go through and look at this kind of like a, like we were doing with the case study? Look at the
I'm gonna show you in a minute all of
Is
that.
that something we haven't had really practice with?
Yeah, that's where we're going actually. That's where we're.
So the ranking.
I don't know what the ranking is.
What is it that you want us to print?
Is that the,
The one
About
that
to
you
be
were
correct.
Are we gonna keep third or are we gonna move it?
Too many, I made an order, I ordered way too many.
You figure that out?
I haven't
finished yet. All right.
we're not last place yet.
This one?
Yeah.
The spot off one can never work.
Yeah, plot all is not functional.
Because it's.
Sorry, guys.
All right, hey, plot all.
It doesn't work for anyone?
No, it just gives you a blank tab.
Mine
Other
works.
plot is.
User error.
What is
So
he
just
actually?
keep the one for your position in that case.
What is he having here?
Is plot all work for you there?
I'm just using this.
So press click, does he want?
Waiting on 1, 2, 3, 4.
I just want to follow.
Game one is done. It's just
Did it?
Refreshing.
No, he just wants money.
I understand that kind
You may have understood it, and then hey, if
Interpret
you
it.
understood it, then.
of. Yeah, sorry, I didn't.
No way.
Yeah. So they're in this one.
That's awesome.
Just get this.
It's 2 teams.
Oh, did I am.
Remember a place we didn't get that?
That's just completion.
Go to your screen real quick, see the one about that. So back to your screen, those little 3 dots beside it.
Wow.
Go to print. Read that, mister. Open it up. Now click on that save as PDF, little arrow beside it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Save as PDF.
I don't think we did.
That.
You had 100?
It's gonna ask you to, you just title it, and it'll save it. I think you open them up in, the Kindle app, I think it's where all your PDFs save.
Yeah, okay.
Distributor. Stan, you're all over the map.
But it's easier.
All right, but it's not right.
Right, in your case, it's kind of unfair because you have an extra position.
We're not last.
Yeah.
That means terrible in German.
Does it take into account that we had that other wholesaler? Or is it just comparing the number of numbers?
Yoga.
I think it's
Game over.
Does it subtract out the?
What do we got?
I think it's dividing the cost by the last time.
Still,
Don't judge.
there's a couple things that have finished.
You're gonna lose, so.
Way to go, Team 4. Do what I strive to be.
From 2, we're gonna lose all of a sudden. Like 0.
Um,
Second for second, at least we're aiming, we were already tied up. We could knock you out.
So when you get it, it's gonna hit me.
I will, yeah, I will.
Finally, they said these guys should have waited on their 5
Did you read the book?
That's actually good. It's divided the cost by the number of positions and the number of weeks.
Right, when you get to make
I think it's my body.
I had never played a mix before.
I made a purchase for almost.
See a subset.
Oh, snap the tomato. No, I.
No, actually,
Okay, 2 players pending. And game 2 may take it all.
Yeah, they're gonna mess up this last week. Watch it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
it hasn't even, oh, okay.
If they don't anticipate that last huge order, they're gonna mess up.
Who's in the team 2?
Woohoo!
You're done?
Done, be done. Wait, what?
Are you done?
Team 2?
Yeah, we're done.
Football.
Yeah.
Good loser, are you?
First place.
It makes it worse.
The one that just.
Yeah, it's that delay, I forgot, I didn't, anyway, I made that over there.
So you want to see 10
Almost
seconds.
done.
Hercules.
I went.
That's right.
There you go.
Woohoo!
So that's the final ranking
Yay!
after 20 weeks. All right, now let's see
Wait, I can't see it.
the data.
I don't know how somebody did worse than I did.
I don't know how we can do the last.
Yeah, I have no idea. Mine was just.
There you go.
over it.
So number 1, team 2, total cost $756.5. Second place,
Good job, guys.
I don't get it.
team 4 with 903, and you were the only ones under 1,000. Then
Wait, aren't costs bad?
No, that's.
you were
total
there,
cost.
and
Okay.
your
Ranking
game
shipments.
actually prorates the cost for the rankings between the number of players. So
So I really did something.
your ranking is accurate. I mean, the cost comparison is here, but
Gotcha.
let's see the interesting thing here. Team number 1, factory cost. Who was playing the factory?
Me.
No.
Team number 1,
Oh.
56. Great job.
Yeah.
That's actually the lowest cost overall.
Because I never changed, as a distributor, I never asked for any more than 4, so she never got backlog costs.
Smart.
So there you go.
So he got the top.
I took the backlog hit, not her.
Wait, so
You were constant?
Yeah.
So you said you only had 4, your demand was only 4?
I never changed.
He never changed.
Mine kept going to 10. It kept
You were getting it from him.
Yeah.
You get it from him.
Because I still needed some. I wasn't moving much, but I still needed some. That's where I was out of business in retail.
Well,
I tried to order everything at the beginning.
There's too much delay
Joey
and limited
did better than
capacity.
I did.
so.
can you see something in this data?
Yes.
Yeah,
Can you
but back
see
orders
like
cost more.
the range of numbers that you got here versus there?
I took the lowest for distributor.
Now, this does not necessarily
Means it's screwed.
reflect the full spectrum of what we needed to see. In order to see the full spectrum, we have to go pretty much 52, 54, closer to 50 weeks. But let's see something. All right. So just to make sure,
No, I started out.
it says here the game has the option to show demand pattern, okay? And everybody was on demand pattern number 2. What does that mean?
Got rid of it.
That means at the retailer level, the orders for every single team were exactly the same. So your costs are an effect of the dynamics within your team because the conditions were exactly the same for everybody. And this is the pattern. And we played until week number 20, where we have about 6 or 7 orders, and there's a spike just right here. So it came down, and then it went up. Would you agree with that? All the retailers?
That's when we started getting screwed.
So that's a demand pattern for everybody.
I never saw that.
Let's see.
But I was waiting for a low creep.
We started anticipating the order. Started creeping up my inventory again. I got it down to 5.
Oh,
I was
really?
carrying 5 every week.
Mine said I had 4 available to ship. That's all I had.
Yeah, because I was shipping you 4.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. The ship has
All right. So this is the winning team.
If he demanded more, and then you would have been back.
It can barely be seen, but there's a line right here. Can you see it?
Yeah.
That's the distributor.
Okay.
It's right here. Okay? So the distributor is the closest to the end customer. So you see how the pattern goes around keeping cost the lowest possible, right?
Whose team is that?
Team number 2, the winning team. So then you go here,
I know, I'll try to get out the door today.
so retailer, this is the one, and then you have the factory over here. For some very weird reason, the retailer has the effect on the factory, but not the distributor, which was the pattern. But the distributor should be somewhere over here, but where was played, the distributor was doing a good job. Okay? So that's the time, the plug here. Let's change. Just want to show you this so that you can see. These, the red line are the orders. Okay, that's the same for everybody. And these are the orders placed by, sorry, no, the orders placed can barely be seen, are like somewhere here. I don't know, the projector doesn't show them, but the yellow one is the inventory or back order. You just had back orders a couple times. So the safest bet and the natural thing, because of the cost always, in most cases you're gonna be able to see that this is the 0. Most people try to go conservative at the lowest level. because you have more control. You try to go on accumulating inventory because you know that it's cheaper than getting back order. But this effect, as you get further away from the customer, gets out of control. What happened to you, Jeremy?
Yeah.
So, let me go back. So this is the phenomenon, okay? And that's probably what you read in the book, the bullwhip effect, right? So Forrester describes that the bullwhip effect is basically the amplification of the variation as you get further away from the customer. So you get, the factory is this line, the bigger wave, and everybody started with the same conditions, so you try to stay in the same line. As you see the phenomenon moving, you see a smoother line right here for the distributor, then the warehouse, and then the factory that goes this way. So that's pretty much what happens. So what Forrester did in this book basically was to play around with variation. You remember variation in the link class and the effect of variation and all that stuff. So he played with variation and he started plotting everything that he saw, he observed in this phenomenon. You have this. This is a 10% variation in increase, 10% increase in retail sales over a period of 1 year. Okay? So that's what it creates. So as you get over the other lines, you see the amplification of everything. But basically, it follows this pattern and then everything stabilizes. That's just when you get an increase of 10%. What happens if you have a variation, positive and negative, of 10%? You see how the entire system gets the whole effect. So, just to compare, here is just increased 10% in retail sales over 1 year, and this is increase and decrease of 10%. So the whole thing just moves all over around, okay? And you see how some of these lines cross at certain points, and you see patterns like this, this, and this follow the same trend, or this one goes with this one, and this cross almost in the middle, so they have the cross frequency there, the neutralizing effect. So that basically helped him to explain how the factories work and how they anticipate orders and how that triggers everything else. So the reason why this became very important was because this basically establishes the entire relationship within a factory. If you're able to trace the effects of increasing demand and supply, that has a direct relationship with how many people you're going to have, how many materials you're going to purchase, what is your budget, and so on and so. Okay? So all that is triggered as an effect of understanding the market, understanding what you sell. So going back to your case, if we remember the first one that has an increase, does it look like this, the chart? So if you have browsed around the internet, the website that we share with you, the oscillation effect, okay? And this one is the first case, it's the one that stabilizes. The second case, it gets amplified as you get further down time. So how do you do the causal loop for that? Like this. How do you model with stock and flow? Just like this, all right? So you have the action, you have the stock right here, and then it's modified by another action and stock, okay? And then you have these converters, usually just one, there might be more converters in between, and you have these particular, the desired levels in the connectors that create that connection of that stock with the other. So there are some people that have tried to model this. This is one, okay? And I share at the end the references, and they're here at the bottom as well. This is only one stage. So this would be, as this paper right here, this would be the representation basically from you to you guys, okay? So each stage can be represented this way. So you have, let me just quickly go back so that you can identify this part right here and this part right here and how they both connect. That would be the equivalent of this part right here, this part right here, and how they connect. And this is just an approach. It doesn't mean that that's the correct answer. This is just one of the approaches they follow. Try to model this with the block. This is the I think software, okay? And even
Do we have access to that by chance?
I think no.
Okay.
No, it has a cost. So basically, you have this action that connects here with backlogs, okay? And the backlogs are modified to some of the orders, and that's the action they try to model here with the shipments. And then the stocks are basically one stock for backlog, one stock for inventory, which is what actually is happening in your cases. And then this is another stock that is kind of intermediate, and it has a different representation because of that, okay? And then the real inventory, which would be, it can be retrieved from some information here, but they just did it with that dotted line over there. So that basically is the term representation, and you see all the converters there that they used in order to just make the translation into what's the information they use for the next connection. So this would be one of the models. There's another paper that shows very similar model. They just use the acronyms here, or the identifiers, but if you go back to the paper, it describes what each one of these codes mean. But if you see the pattern, the whole purpose of me showing this here, you see the same pattern here and here. You have the stock relationship here with the activities connected to another part of the system, okay? And that again represents only one relationship between two levels, okay? So if you're interested in getting further read, again, the paper is listed at the end and here at the bottom. In a much simpler way, the causal loop would look like this, okay? This is another paper. And what you can see there is the representation of delivery delay, okay? And again, this is only between two levels. So if you wanted to represent the entire beer game, you had to replicate this from retailer, customer to retailer, retailer to distributor, distributor to wholesaler, wholesaler to factory, okay? And then in some of these, there might be some variations as for the elements that affect the entire interaction. So you have all this information there if you want to dive in and read a little bit more. Some of these are very specific solutions or approaches that they use. Even some of them, one of these papers, where is it? early stage is another. This one. This one is very interesting in how they follow 4 policies in order to determine which one was the best, 4 strategies to play with the beer game and see which one was the more efficient into how to react. And they selected the emergency transshipment as one of the least efficient ways of reacting to a supply chain. Emergency transshipment, it means whenever you see that you have a big back order, you place a huge order in between, and that's what creates entire disruption into the system.
So Enrique, you know, the behaviors you see there are very common with respect to certain control systems. Classic, under dam, over dam, those kinds of things. So, I mean, the key point of, I think, in the exercise is you don't have the visibility of all the other information. You're just one piece of the whole control system. Do any of the papers talk about that aspect and the fact that, you know, to get the behavior that we know we can control a lot better, that you really have to get outside your own information system to pull together the other parts of the whole system?
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, these papers, what all of them say is they use the beer game just because it's a very popular model, and they say this is just an approximation to represent the model because it's very, very complicated to get the model, and the beer game has all these parameters that are very easy to trace, but there's a lot more of things outside that would affect the system. But in the end, these are most of them theoretical papers that just try to prove the principle. But, so this one right here would give you a hint of how you can translate things from operational level into system dynamics. So just skim through the papers. Some of them might be of interest to you, some of them probably just general knowledge, but skim through if you have a chance. All of these are accessible through the UT library, by the way. So if it tells you, if you're at home and you try to access and it tells you you have to pay $40, just get to the connection in the UT library and it will be able to retrieve for free. Okay. Any questions?
I would say modeling the beer game is very complicated.
Yes.
So would you agree that modeling People Express is orders of magnitude more complicated?
All of the modeling is very complicated.
That's why we're all like exhausted.
Just keep that in mind when you're grading.
A+ for everything.
The thing here in this one is it depends on how you set up the game. If it's random orders, traditionally the beer game is used to be, if you played in the board game, you have an average demand of 3 units, and then you just play the dice, and you would increase or decrease based on that. So, yeah, it rolls up to, I think they chopped it by every 2. So if it's 1, 2, you just added 1 unit, 3, 4, 2 units, 5, 6, 3 units. That goes up to 6 or comes back down to 0. And that is just random. And depending on that, it triggers the other steps. But in the end, the modeling of the interaction of the beer game is very controlled decisions. So it's just in that paper that has the 4 different policies, they pretty much establish different assumptions for each one of the strategies. That's what gets complicated, because each one of these strategies would mean that you have to tweak your causal loop model into where to intervene, the leverage points, find the leverage points. All right? right. I hope this gives a little bit of a hint to the whole thing.
I like that.
Need exercise.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.